when I try and start something and the jets fly over. Hello everyone, I'm your host Aaron with Grizzly Wood Services, and on today's episode of It's Too Hot and I'm Too Fat, we're going to do a little bit of chain maintenance. So everybody has a little bit different process for doing their chain maintenance. I soak my chains in Coil Clean, or I believe it's called Coil Bright. It's a HVAC coil cleaner. Non-corrosive, and it does a good job of getting the gunk off your chains. Is it absolutely necessary? No, not generally for most of your crosscut chains. However, the chains I'm sharpening today are for my buddy Scotty, who operates Anderson's stump grinding services. So with the stumps, you end up in more dirt, you end up in more grime, more oil. So the chains get gummed up a little bit more, so you're better off just giving them a little bit more thorough cleaning, and the Coil Bright really helps with doing that. So my process is Coil Bright, let them soak, swirl it around, then give them a water dunk, let them sit in that for a little bit, and then lay them out and hose them off, and then let them air dry. From that point, we can move on to checking our chains and marking, your roughest tooth, and starting from there. Now, on a note for when you're doing your chain grinding, safety is always key, so a bit on the safety equipment. We've got a apron, keeps the metal fragments off of you and also keeps your loose fitting clothing away from any moving parts. Got some gloves. All these gloves are a bit worn. Something's still better than nothing. Eye protection, because nobody needs metal shards in their eye. Hearing protection. I'm half deaf, so hearing protection helps me keep what little I have left. And then we have a respirator. Is a respirator absolutely necessary? If you're doing it indoors, I'm going to say yes. The reason being is if you're using the stones, you can end up with silicosis, black lung, miner's lung, cold lung. It's got about a dozen different names for it. Basically, your lungs get shredded and filled with dirt and you can't breathe, and that's a horrible way to die. Outdoors, if you got a breeze that's blowing the particles away from you, it's a little bit more optional, but I go ahead and still do it because breathing is good. Alright, now that we're back in setup, I'm using a Argon 620 120. This has got the chain brake, chain stop, whatever you want to call it, clamp. That's got the that's piston driven, and it's got the rotary dial for your different sizes. Now, because we're doing cross cut and this is steel chain, 30 degrees and 60 degrees with 0 pivot. Now, Oregon chain, I think, has a 5 or 15 degree pivot. I don't recall which. I don't cut Oregon chain. But even if I did, I would still do it at the same numbers that that steel does theirs, just because that works fine for me. Now, I am using a carbide blade, wheel, whatever you want to call it. So we'll get this going, and I'll have it set up in just a second, and we'll have at it. All right, I'm losing the mask because I got a strong wind from behind me. So I just finished the one side. Now we're going to unscrew our bottom, bring this all around to 30 degrees on the other side, and go through it again. But we're not making any adjustments here to our stop, and we're not making any adjustments here to our head. It's simply rotating it. That way you get an even left to right on your teeth. And always make sure you shut this wheel off while you're making changes. That way you don't grind into your finger. So I didn't clean this chain, and the last thing I cut with it was fresh cherry. You can actually smell that as it's grinding away and burning off some of it. Alright, that's all the way around. I'll bring you guys back when I start doing the rakers. Alright, boys and girls, welcome back. All of the cutter grinding is done. Now it's time to set our rakers. It's done with a file and raker gauge for your first raker, and then you can set your grinder up to match that. So I just use a standard 25 on this, and that raker is fine, which it should be because I barely took anything off of this chain. Yeah, see this one, this is the milling chain, and this one did not need anything taken off because I barely shaved the edge of these teeth. I can see right now I don't need to take anything off of this one either. Nope. if any of them will need it. This one will, because this is the one that I cut that cherry with and ate up some blacktop with it. Alright. Just a hair off of that. Let's see where this one's at. Yep, just the tiniest little hair off of it. That's what you do. Just make sure everything's in there good. Get your gauge on there. Give it a couple quick passes. Still needs a little bit taken off of it. Alright, she's good now. So with this one, the wheel's different. You actually use a flat wheel. Now, generally speaking, the instructions say to grind this all the way down to where this is completely flat. I felt that that was kind of a waste of a lot of material, so I ground down half of it, and I just have to be a little bit more precise with where I line this up. Then you make contact with your tooth. Set your stop. Fire it up and give it a bump. That's all you want right there. So now you can go back to the beginning of your chain. You got one set. Double check where you're at here. Give it a couple bumps. And let me get my safety equipment. Eyes, ears, and hands. So here you're set to 0. Here on the side you're set to 0. And you're just going flat, and you keep your angle the same because that's what you set your stone at. For grinding your breakers. And this one, instead of skipping left and right, you actually hit all of them all the way through. Now I allow this entire raker grinding to play through from beginning to end, just to show you guys how fast it is. It takes maybe a minute and 15 seconds to do the entire chain. All right, back to the beginning right there. All right, so that's how fast it is to set your depth on the rakers for, I have to think for a minute, 3/8 050, I think it's 105 drive lengths. It's a for 32-inch bar. So you can see that's a whole lot faster than using the file gauge and file. Once you get it set, I mean, just in doing that, you know, it's a pretty good investment in time saving, especially when you're doing, you know, 4 or 5 chains. You set your initial height for each chain, because again, you know, one raker depth ain't going to be the same for another, you know, for 2 chains. But the upside to, you know, using a grinder is once you got your cutter length set, you know, you just bump through all of them, go back to your rakers, bump through all of them, and you're, you know, that chain's completely done. The only extra step I do is because I cleaned these and soaked them, sprayed them off, I also oil the chains, so we'll get to that in just a second. Alright, last step for me when I'm doing these, I actually spray them down with Stihl's Hedge Blade Cleaner and Resin Remover. Lubricates, helps, you know, gets, you know, the little bit of that crap that's still on there off of it. That's pretty much all there is to it. Flip them, spray the other side, you're done. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all stay safe, stay hydrated, have a good summer.